Warning, the Dub Talk podcast contains language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. There will also be spoilers for various anime throughout the course of this episode. Please use caution in case we discuss a series that you haven't finished yet. Finally, the opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and may not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Enjoy the show.
Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Dub Talk House, a place where the most beautiful and lovely courtesans will be here to take care of your every dubbing need. I am your head proprietress, Megan, and with me I have the pure concubine, Beth.
I seem to have a lot of stray cats around me right now. I don't know why.
I have the wise concubine, Jet.
I question your idea of wise, but sure.
And I have the charming concubine, Jamal.
I'm just here for the fun.
Tonight we are here to talk about the 2023 to 2024 hit anime The Apothecary Diaries, but also tonight is the first night you will hear one of our good friends and a guest star to the episode. This is our good friend Bright Eyes, aka Beth. If you have ever watched our best of clip compilations, she is the one who usually gets all of our time codes.
I suffer for all of you. You're welcome.
Pretty much. But yeah, tonight we are here to talk about The Apothecary Diaries, the anime from, I believe, Studio OLM is the one who does this?
It's, I think it's Toho and OLM.
Yeah, it's like a combo. It's like a two-studio thing. But we're here more importantly to talk about its English dub from our friends over at Crunchyroll. But to give you all a plot summary, courtesy of the Square Enix books light novel back, because this was based off a light novel that got turned into like 2 manga and then an anime. Maomao leads an unassuming life with her father, an apothecary, but kidnappers whisk her away to the world of consorts and serving women in the Empire's rear palace. Sold into imperial servitude, the girl keeps her quick wit and sharp mind and medical knowledge a secret. But when head eunuch Jinshi shatters Maomao's low profile when she catches his eye, he perceives her true skills and makes her a lady-in-waiting to the rear palace's top consort. Can Maomao quietly pass her term of service as her lady's food tester, or will observational prowess and curiosity push her into danger as she uncovers turmoil at the court? So welcome to what I can only describe to some people, as much as I hate it, as Dr. House meets Raven of the Inner Palace.
Only if House poisoned himself on the regular.
Yes.
Okay, you don't even have to say House. You could just say Sherlock Holmes. I mean, that's basically your House.
Fair.
And Sherlock Holmes does poison himself. But with drugs.
I mean, so does House too.
This is true.
There's a lot of Vicodin.
Shit, that would have worked so much better on Blue Sky last night.
Alright. So, I have been wanting to talk about this for a while. And just to give full disclaimer to everybody asking, we are only going to be talking about the first 24 episodes or season 1. As of the time of this recording, season 2 is currently airing. I think they just did episode
8, I think.
6 of 8, yeah. So I'm sorry, but this is going to be about 8 centimeters too short for some of you. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But I think we're going to have a good time, and we do have a lot of people to talk about, so we are just going to dive right in to our ADR cast and crew. So directing this as the main director is Sean Gann. He was assisted by Chris George and Michelle Rojas, and writing was Clayton Browning and Kieran Filton. Sean Gann you'll know as the directors of series such as Buddy Daddies, Ao Ashi, and Shadow's House Season 2. Chris George did directing work on BEM, Fairy Tale, The 100-Year Quest, and Listeners, and Michelle Rojas has done directing with The Ancient Magus Bride, Dr. Stone, New World, and The Other Side Picnic. As for writing, I can't read when I'm reading fast. Clayton Browning has done work on shows such as Kochiki, No Guns Life, and Fairy Gone, while Kieran Filton has worked on series such as Liar Liar, Masamune Moon's Revenge R, and Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. So, who would like to start us off on the directing and writing front?
I mean, not much to say other than this is great. So did a really great job directing this one. Like everyone here sounds really consistent. A lot of the casting choices feel pretty spot on. Like the whole thing sounds really smooth. I've seen my share of palace intrigue shows at this point, but I think it sometimes be a little bit hard to follow. You usually have a bunch of different characters, a lot of names you have to memorize, and a lot of moving parts. So I think it really speaks to how well this show is directed, and I had a pretty easy time following that. And while a lot of that is kind of contributed to the quality of the show itself, I feel like how distinct a lot of the dub performances were also did a lot to help with that. And script-wise, I was also really impressed with how a lot of this came together. Does a good job balancing the court drama with a lot of the comedy. Particularly enjoyed the way it played with a lot of innuendo. I thought I got a pretty good laugh out of some of the jokes they pulled with that. And on the whole, I was really impressed with this one. Probably one of my favorite dubs from last year.
Thanks, Jet. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go. To be honest, I don't really have much to say. This is a spectacular show with a spectacular dub. It's just there are a lot of moving pieces, and if any one of them were to be off, to feel off at some point, it probably would have done the whole show a disservice. Even just the tiniest bits of what's going on in the story within the world building. Sean and his crew managed to navigate those trenches very, very meticulously. I like his approach to the cast, to the crew, to the story, especially the casting, because it heavily favors a lot of POCs, with a few exceptions here and there. But I think that is to be said when you're writing for a story that's not based on any piece of fiction, but can be related to certain pieces of fiction. I mean, I had a similar experience just the other week when I had to watch Crazy Rich Asians, and it has a similar feeling in its storytelling that like there's all these pieces you have to navigate, and if even one of them feels off, it could probably do the whole thing a disservice. And that movie played it very well. So coming into the Apothecary Diaries, it was just it's a spectacular piece of work. That's all I can say.
Beth, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm coming into this with a very different, or I guess very specific perspective, because one of my bread and butter in terms of things I enjoy is historical fiction. So I'm very critical of any historical fiction that I consume in any media, and I've got to say this is one of the best that I've ever come across in terms of just the way the story is done and everything around it. In terms of the directing and writing, yeah, I kind of struggled to come up with notes because everything was just so good and smooth and no real issues in any way whatsoever. I will point out a couple of highlights. In terms of the directing, I think that the really subtle and quiet moments were actually some of the best in the show, because it just allowed the direction and the actors to really work with to really flex in those moments, because anybody can be loud and bombastic, but the subtle and quiet moments you really pay attention to, and they're just beautiful. They were some of my favorite scenes in the show. And in terms of the writing, this, again, I'm very used to historical fiction, and I'm used to bad historical fiction. This is some of the best writing in terms of the dialogue, because even though, it's very clearly set in a specific time period and place, you could very clearly understand what the language is very accessible while still being accurate to the period. And it was really very nice because, there were some things where, you could very easily have used terms that not everyone would know or would not fit within the period that we're in, but I think that Clayton and Kieran did a very good job of sort of weaving in and out. And I have to shout out some of my favorite lines. You can well become a concubine if you have assets. Unfortunately, there's not a great demand for the skin and bones look. Grade A quality genes and no way of proliferating them. Laxatives in your food later. Are you trying to topple a nation? Do I have to spell it out for you, Quack? And my favorite line that I think about all the time. If he wasn't so high, I'd kick him in the groin. Oh, wait, there's nothing there to kick.
Oh, dick humor.
And boobs. So many new words for boobs.
I think for me, the thing that really catches my eye with this, as somebody who... I'm in the process of trying to read the light novels. I've come to learn that as I've gotten older, I have a hard time looking at, like, black text on white paper, or, like, on white screens, so I have a harder time to read novels than I do manga. But as somebody who's read the manga, this definitely pays respect to that translation and localization, as well as putting its own twist onto it in this anime format. Sean Gann has consistently been one of the strongest directors at Funimation as it turned into Crunchyroll, and that speaks to the people not only who trained him to be an EDR director, very famously, I believe he was the protege of Caitlin Glass, but that he took the time to take a series that is based vaguely in ancient China. I say vaguely, like in the fact that Yona of the Dawn is vaguely based on South Korea. If you know anything about Yona of the Dawn, it is very, very much vaguely South Korea. That not only did Sean take the time and ability, for the most part, that a majority of the major characters and players are played by people who are of Asian descent. But I also thought the casting of Maomao was, like, the most exceptionally safe casting of all time. And I was proven 100% wrong in being kind of mildly disappointed they went with that person at first, because I thought it was too safe. I enjoy that the cast is a lot of mix of veterans and a lot of new up-and-coming actors. There are some people who are a little bit rough, but I can overlook that roughness for, one, who the character is, and two, because of the immaculate polish on this show. There's a casting in this that I would have never seen coming, like, 1,000 miles away. And I think it is genuinely one of the best performances that actor has given in his entire career.
Yeah, I remember, just vividly remember you and I both screaming at each other when that casting came out.
Yeah, I was like, this is not the person who I would have put in that role. I'll say who it was when we get to them. And then the writing is really good. There's a thing I want to compare this to, and that is the writing of Freerun. In that, I believe that this shares the same thing with Freerun, where a lesser writer would have probably tried to localize this with more modern terms, and it would not have worked, because this is historical fiction. And I am also very happy that the writing of this show's English version is just as blunt as the subtitle translation is, because 100% The Apothecary Diaries is a show that a lot of people look at and think, oh, it's just like, court drama and stuff. This is a show with inherently heavy subject matter at times, and that gets more so in season 2.
Oh boy, does it!
If you have, we'll talk about
later
when we get to certain characters, but like, genuinely, I applaud not only the directing but the writing for that. that it handles that subject matter and it doesn't make it feel taboo in a sense, but it does give it the weight that it is needed. Which is a lot to say when you talk about anime, because a lot of anime doesn't do that. And this series does, and it treats it with, it takes the gloves off and is like, no, this is messy and we're going to get messy about it, but we're not going to fetishize it and make it like a wink wink nudge nudge ha ha type thing. It is treated very seriously, and the direction and performances given treat it with that seriousness. And that is something that I really want to applaud, especially when you work in an industry where, unfortunately, this is something I have to say about a lot of, about specifically very much Crunchyroll and Sentai, is that they dub a lot of shit that does not treat this with that respect. And I have to imagine that working on a lot of garbage like that takes it out of you. So, knowing that they have the professionalism to come from a lot of those garbage shows and work on something that's like, we're going to explicitly talk about things like sexual assault, about rape, about how prostitution works, about death, about medicine, and we're not going to treat it, and the show's not going to treat it like a joke, and your localization better not either, nor your performances, is a lot, and that says a lot about the quality of Sean's direction. So, that's my thoughts on direction writing. Is everybody good to move on to the first section?
I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
I thought, speaking of cats in this show, I thought I heard my cat yelling at me. Shinya can stay outside for a little while. Alright, so let's talk about our first set of characters. This is going to be a lot of the rear palace staff and characters that are in either the rear palace or the front palace. At one point, Maomao goes from the rear palace to the main palace. We'll kind of get there when we talk about it later. But we're going to start off with Xiaolin. She is a servant girl that works with Maomao, who is uneducated, very sweet, very gentle, and kind of gets her a lot of the gossip that's around. She is an absolute sweet bean who nothing bad should ever happen to her in her life. Lee Haku is a member of the military. He ends up giving Maomao a hairpin at the garden party just because he was giving them out. And it turns out that she uses him to visit her family at the Verdigris house. She grew up in a whorehouse. That's the only way to say it. Turns out that Lee Haku gets a crush on one of the 3 princesses of the Verdigris house in Parine, who Parine's, just to explain, we're gonna get to Parine in the next session, but just to explain, Parine likes him big, she likes him beefy, and she likes it all night long. Lee Haku is all of that. He is also the human equivalency of a dog. In the good way. He kind of often gets brought up into Maomao's schemes in the first season. Sure is a servant woman in the front palace who has a mysterious connection to things going on, and she is believed to have caused an assassination attempt on Jinshi, who Maomao didn't know it was going to be Jinshi at the time, but she was pretty much convinced that this woman was going to kill someone. At the current time of where the show is at, no one knows what's going on with Sure right now. Suren is the head kind of lady-in-waiting to Jinshi in the rear palace. She very much took care of him, and I believe she was one of the old consort Aoduo's nursemaid, or she was the emperor's nursemaid?
She was, because the emperor and Aoduo were milk siblings, so they...
she was she was his nursemaid.
Yes.
And then there's Guen, aka the Quack Doctor. He is the doctor eunuch of the rear palace, who very much is there to be Maomao's assistant after a while, even though he's technically in charge, because he kind of is very uneducated and put there for the sake of being, the eunuch doctor. Playing Xiaolin is Bri Han. Playing Lee Haku is Seth Fuentes. Playing Sure is Veronica Lau. Playing Suren is Kanisha Thompson. And playing the Quack Doctor, Gwen, is Jim Ferranda. Bri Han, she hasn't done a ton outside of this, but she was Masaki, Sakimaya, and Dead Mount Deathplay. Seth Fuentes is Prince Tenyu in The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. Manel and Sandland the series. I don't know why. Usually I put character name first, then the show, and I reversed it for that. And Cho Kiwan in Solo Leveling. Veronica Lau is characters such as Pansy in Dragon Ball Daima. Teru Mojiyama, aka Shai in Shai. And Nanao Hibiya in Reign of the Seven Spellblades. Kanisha Thompson is Naomi Drunk in One Piece Heart of Gold. And Queen Boudicca in Radiant. And Jim Ferranda is Genyu Tsukimiya in Blue Lock. Joe Wise in Code Geass Akito the Exile. And Worker Noragrim in Wistoria Wand and Sword. How do we feel about the kind of palace staff cast of characters?
Yeah, I feel like they do their job for what are, well, not necessarily background characters, but definitely kind of like, mostly kind of like smaller players in the grand scheme of things. Except for Sure, whose deal we kind of don't really know yet. I got a pretty good kick out of Jim Ferranda as the crack doctor. I thought he was, I thought it was pretty funny. He did a pretty good job giving off like kind of really goofy, really goofy uncle energy. Just it's just always the way kind of seeing it bounce off Maomao and just kind of being just sort of lovably clueless in the grand scheme of things. And similarly, I thought Bree was pretty fun as Xiaolan. For the most part, she doesn't really have too much to do this season beyond being Maomao's buddy. But I thought she was pretty fun, and I thought they kind of bounced off each other pretty well. The handful of scenes they were together. And as for Cifuentes, I thought Lee Haku was pretty alright for the amount of time we spent with him. It was kind of funny the way they kind of shifted things, because when we first introduced his character and he gave Maomao the pin, I thought his whole thing was going to be like him being into Maomao, or at least Maomao while she has makeup on. So I thought it was kind of amusing when that's just kind of tossed out almost immediately.
He's like, no, I have crush on titty lady.
Yeah. It's it's kind of funny seeing him getting constantly sorted by Maomao, and just that whole sequence of events is really funny. And Seth's delivery there is really great. And then during the whole thing where he has to be serious with pining for Pirate, I thought he was really there too, and I wanted to root for him even if he was kind of a goofball, pretty much every other time we saw him. And as for Kanisha Thompson and Surin, this is the character I probably have the least to say about. I thought she was fine for. I thought she was fine for what she had. I thought she did a pretty good job, kind of being I guess kind of having sassy aunt energy whenever she was around Maomao, and kind of chastising her whenever Maomao was running off to do pretty much anything that wasn't her job. I thought that was pretty funny. But on the whole, I thought all these performances were pretty solid.
I think for me, the thing that the moment with Lee Haku that actually kills me is, so Jinshi gets very jealous whenever Maomao's around a man that isn't him, because we all know Jinshi is a giant 12-year-old. It is, so one point there's this part where after Maomao notes that when she takes Lee Haku to get a taste of one of the three princesses of the Verdigris house, he is never going to get over this in his life. It's like when you give the baby their first sip of Baja Blast at the Taco Bell. This man is now obsessed with titties that could kill a dude. Would topple nations. We're talking Helena Troy's rack on a woman who doesn't want to quit her job. Oh, you have been in this room the entire time, haven't you, Shinya? Your mom's talking about big boobies, and you come over here and distract her.
Speaking of feral cats,
She's not feral. She's just an asshole. Like, Parine does not want to quit her day job, not because she's old, and by old, I mean, like, in her 30s, which, you know, makes you a decrepit dinosaur in, like, ancient China standards. Because she likes to fuck. And Maomao's like, alright, look, dude, if you want to get with Parine, I need to make sure that you are what she wants.
you got the stamina.
And you got the beef, and you got the endurance. So Maomao takes him into a shed after, you know, she's helped him with an investigation thing, you know, tit for tat. And she's, like, getting him to strip down and, like, examining him, and Jinshi walks in, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? But going from that exact moment of comedy to Seth Fuentes' kind of moment where he tells Jinshi that he's not going to take his money to get Parine now. He's going to work for it himself. I think Seth, while being a little bit more green than some of the other performers in the show, had that such genuine energy to his performance and general earnestness that I was able to look past how green he was. He is definitely somebody I have my eye on going forward. I think with some time, I could definitely see him becoming a future powerhouse. Brihan is also the person I would say who's probably the most green in this show. But thankfully that works for her performance as Xiaolon. That she is a little bit more rough speaking, she's a little bit more high pitched and girly. She is the foil to Maomao, and she is uneducated. Like, this girl cannot even read her own writing, like, cannot even write her own name. I think she does a good job of being super cute. I also don't have a ton, like you said, to say about Kanisha Thompson. I think she does a great older woman voice, especially because Su-Ren is actually, you know, an adult. And then Jim Ferranda as the Quack Doctor is so delightfully, like, old man-y. Where, like, he's got the kind of dumb middle-aged nice guy voice that's just very friendly and warm, and, like, you just want to kind of give this man a hug, but also smack him upside the head.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Much like
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I heard someone. Oh wait, no, it might have actually been an episode where, like, they compared it to, like, a gay uncle, and I'm like, yep, you know what? That's kind of the right energy.
Yeah, he's got no dick. He got no dick, no balls. He is everyone's uncle at the doctor's office. I liked Veronica Lau in what little we heard of her as Sue-Ray. I think Veronica Lau definitely started having a breakout year last year. In 2023. So that's when Shai started. That was her first big break. Obviously, now that she is Pansy in Dragon Ball Daima, I expect her career to blow up big. But I really liked with her, because I had only heard her as, like, Shai at that point, who is very tiny and not adulty voice, and this was a lot more adulty and cryptic. So I like that, and I really want to see where it goes.
Alright, I'll go next.
Okay.
I really like Bree's Xiaolon. She sounded so cute, and she had, I don't know if this is Bree's natural voice, but she had a very good whine to Xiaolon's voice, but it wasn't too much of one, to where you could really tell just how young and naive she was, but it worked so well for her character. I had only heard Seth before as in Saint's Magic before this, and his role in Saint's Magic is so different from Lee Haku. You could put them next to each other and you might tell they're the same person, but you would not see it at first glance. But he gives Lee Haku what I will constantly call big golden retriever energy. He gives him like that, like, and he can go from when he's at the Verdigris house, he can do a switch up from a big boofer to an eager pup whenever Pyrene is around. And I think this was in the scene that you were just referencing, Megan. One of my favorite lines from Ryokuō: "Strip I shall." I love the lines in this show. But yeah, he gave Lihaku such a big golden retriever energy, and it was great. For Suire, I can't talk a lot about Suire because Suire didn't do a lot. That's coming later.
Yeah.
Spoilers! But I will say, for what we did hear of her, she had a very refined tone to her voice, to where you could very clearly tell, okay, there's something up with this girl, but we don't know what exactly. But it very much is like, okay, pay attention to her. And for Sweden, Kenesha Thompson made her sound like such a sweet old grandma, but do not let that fool you. She can and will clock you immediately on any shenanigans. Like, like every single time she sounded like a sweet, loving old grandma, and then she immediately turned in like a second, and like, and you can tell that she, even though she's very seemingly like very innocent, very sweet, she is just as cunning and devious as another granny we're going to meet later. Okay, for the Quack, aka Gwen, no one respects this poor man. This poor man is not paid enough for this. Why is he in this position? We're not exactly sure. He's here. He's doing what he can, which is not much. But he does his best to assist the little lady, aka Maomao. And he just tries his best. And that's all we can ask of him.
I always like when he goes to try to get snacks for everybody and they just all ditch him. He's like, oh.
Like, oh, I wanted snack time.
Oh, man. Alright.
I think, yeah, Jamal.
So, I'm gonna go a little backwards here. Starting with the quack doctor. Like you said, he's just there. He doesn't get paid enough for this. I mean, what is his position exactly? What is his disposition exactly? Like, I mean, who knows? Yeah, he kind of gets pushed around by Maomao towards the latter half, but I like what Jim Ferranda brings to the role. Kenesha Thompson is Sweerin, man, she does a really good old woman voice. Like, I'm not too familiar with her, and then I found out she's the Baroness Hammerlock in Borderlands 3, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a whole different can of worms right there. But for what little Sweerin has to do in the latter half of the episodes, I think probably that middle 6 episodes, if I recall, because she's attended to Jinshi and an old friend of Oddworld's, but we'll get more into that later. I like what Kenesha brought to the table. Now, Veronica Lara, Sweeray just shows up, gives us some success to expect, and we don't hear from her again until, well, we don't know what's gonna happen. I will say there's a slight tangent aside. Y'all noticed the back half of the last 12 episodes, the new OP, the second OP, right? Mm-hmm. I forget why he called that. I think it was something like a Mon syndrome or something, where like whatever you see happens in the OP is gonna happen in the show, because we see plenty of stuff, and then you see a mysterious figure just rise up out of a coffin, which, spoiler, in one of the episodes, Sweetway mysteriously passes and then just disappears. We don't know what all that is about just yet.
Yeah, she supposedly offs herself, but nope, empty coffin.
Yeah, so we don't know what all that is about yet, but we do know that apparently some things seem to be connected, but speaking conjecture out loud is kind of forbidden, as we'll find out later on. Seth Winters is Lihaku. I mean, I can understand your sentiment, but it's been a while since I've seen a lot of Saint's magic power. But yeah, man, he's like an eager soldier ready to go, and then only to find out that, like, once he gets God, I do not want to quote Britney Spears. No. Do I dare?
Do it.
With a taste of her lips, he's on a ride. She's toxic, he's slipping under. I did not expect to do that, but here we are. And speaking of here we are, Pihan. I like her voice. I saw almost all of Dead My Death play. She was great in that, and hearing her bring the same energy, the same tone. Well, not tone, because Jesus Christ, her character Dead Mouth plays a little darker, but a little more playful too. I like how she's playing. She basically brings the same attitude, because Shalon is like ignorant by design, but that's only because of how she was raised. Because she's illiterate. She tends to focus on some of the wrong things. Like, she focuses on a lot of the gossip that goes on in the Rear Palace, and doesn't really prioritize like certain aspects of it. Plus, she's tend to be hungry sometimes. Like, seriously, almost every scene I've seen her in, except for the episode with the blue flowers, you see her at least eating something, or maybe doing some cleaning work or something.
Play to a girl's heart, bribe her with food.
Yeah, really.
Yes, that's all I got to say.
Awesome. Are we ready to... Let's get complicated.
Oh boy!
Oh boy. Let's get complicated. Let's talk about Maomao's family.
The somehow less complicated family tree.
God, if we put these people on Family Feud, they would be the people who say "sit on it" to Steve Harvey.
It's up there. It's up there.
It is. It is some sexual... Remember, kids, if you're playing Family Feud, a sexual innuendo is always up there. Speaking of sexual innuendos, the Verdigris house, it's not a whore house, it's a whore home. And it is run by the madam. She is the old lady proprietress of the Verdigris house. She is shrill, she is shrewd, she is probably the best secondary character in the show, in my opinion. There are the three flowers of the Verdigris house. Maomao, she is kind of the smart one who prefers to play games with people, and she was mentored by a woman named Fanxian. We'll get there in a minute. Joka is the one that doesn't like men. That's right, kids.
Because to her, they're all a bunch of jokers?
Yeah! Yeah!
God damn it.
Being gay in ancient China is hard, kids.
You okay, Beth?
I'm good.
And then there's Parine. She likes him big. She likes him beefy. She was also Maomao's nursemaid, because even without having children, she can lactate.
The body is a strange and wondrous thing.
She is... A night with Parine will kill a man. Speaking of men... Oh, go ahead, Jamal.
I was going to say, the quote called a mockery. I like to stick my head in, go...
Mood. Wood. And then we get to the men. We have Loman. He is a eunuch who is Maomao's uncle by blood, but is her adopted father. Back about 16 years ago, he used to be the doctor of the Rear Palace. However, the night that the imperial prince was born and Aoduo's son was born, he was brought away from Aoduo to give birth to the more pressing child that was with the empress. However, Aoduo's labor caused her to lose her uterus, and he had to take it out. And eventually, it was found that the child that Aoduo was raising died because they were poisoned, and that he had been swapped. Lumen's knee bone was taken out, and he was exiled from the palace. This brings us to Lakon.
And then there's this asshole.
Lakon is Maomao's biological father. He is a member of the illustrious La clan. Where do I even begin with this fucking dude? He has facial blindness. He has always had it since he was a child, but he was a master tactician. Lumen, as his uncle, told him to start envisioning people as pieces in chess. Eventually, one day, Lacan rose to the ranks while being a lazy commander and was taken to the Verdigris' house for a night of pleasure. It was there that he met Fangjian, a woman who was just as smart as him in Go. She was the first woman that he could ever recognize the face of, let alone the first human person, and he fell in love with her, and they consummated their relationship. However, because of Lumen's failures at the palace, and him and Lacan being so close, Lacan's father kicked them both out. Lacan, thinking that he was going to be gone for a couple of months, ended up being gone for 3 years, resulting in Fangjian, who had become pregnant with his child, to lose her status at the Verdigris' house, because in her words, there are no mothers at the Verdigris' house. And because the only way to reduce a concubine's value is to impregnate them. In her anger and despair over Lacan leaving her after impregnating her, she cut off both her and part of her finger and part of Maomao's finger and sent it to him, became a streetwalker, and got syphilis and is slowly succumbing to that. Lacan wants to be back in his daughter's life, but Maomao kind of hates him because, in her words, how would you like it if someone who abandoned you for years came up and suddenly said, "You're my kid now," after, Lumen had been raising her? So, unfortunately, Fangjian doesn't speak a ton. She is played by Caitlin Glass, though. Playing the family of Maomao, the Madam is played by Wendy Powell, Maymay is played by Rebecca Dene, Joka played by Monica Flatley, Clarine played by Ciaran Strange, Lumen by Stephen Miller, and Lacan by Rico Fajardo. Wendy Powell you'll know as voices such as Envy in Full Metal Alchemist, Yuki in Midnight Occult Civil Servants, and Gigon in Yona of the Dawn. Rebecca Dene you'll know as characters such as Ayano Kishima in Alia Hides Her Feelings, sometimes in Russian, Lawine in Frieren, and Rin Fujishiro in A Sign of Affection. Monica Flatley you'll know as characters such as Uka Ishimori in Honey Lemon Soda, Rouge Red Star in Metallic Rose, and Nicola in Quality Assurance in Another World. I see Rouge, and the only thing I can think of is pissing here by yourself, handsome. Thanks, Sonic. Ciaran Strange you'll know as characters such as Luca Esposito in Astra Lost in Space, Yu Bauer in I'm in Love with the Villainess, and Odin in Warlords of Sigafrida. Stephen Miller, the only thing I could find for him was that he was Bishamon in One Piece. And Rico Fajardo, you'll know his characters such as Guy in I Know Kusabi. I'm sorry, did anybody else immediately go to the bloopers for I Know Kusabi? If you're not nice, we're not gonna cuddle tonight. Makoto, Narumi, and Surf at the end, and Benimaru in That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Alright, who wants to rip the band-aid off on Dysfunction?
I guess I'll go again.
I mean, so I can go if you want me to go first.
I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a whole ton to say about Lumen as Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller's Lumen. I get brain. I thought he did a pretty good job. Kind of being a man of very few words, but clearly pretty wise and giving Maomao good advice every now and then, and I guess kind of keeping an eye on her while not intervening in her life too much. He doesn't we don't see a whole lot of him, and when we do see him, he doesn't really talk much. So there's not a whole ton to say about the performance, but for what we see, the character I thought he did a pretty good job. And then going into Maymay's sisters, this is another aspect where I will really praise the dub performances because because I'll be honest, if it were for how easy it was to kind of differentiate some of these specific actors, I would honestly have gotten these three confused a lot. It's not necessarily because they aren't interesting characters, but we do just kind of see them together like most of the time, so it can kind of be a little bit too confusing whenever we are seeing them in like individual scenes. But I liked what we saw of them. I especially got a pretty good kick out of Kieran Strain's inspiring. I mean, it's Kieran Strain. I don't think I've heard him deliver a bad performance in anything, and I thought he did a pretty good job of kind of getting the sultry older sister energy across pretty well, and then during the moments where we do kind of see the whole stint with Lee Haku, I thought that Karen did a pretty good job with the whole thing of Pyra kind of like playing coy about it as to whether or not she was actually interested in him and being like, well, maybe someday, but I'm pretty happy with my job right now and I don't have any desire to leave it. And I thought Karen got that whole thing across pretty well. Similarly, I liked Rebecca today as May May. Definitely pretty good, friendly, older sister energy. Especially kind of like the whole bit where like Lock-On's, where Lock-On's coming by trying to find the mysterious concubine that Maomao pointing him to, and how she kind of. And how she's kind of like leading him on a bit and sort of like kind of going along the whole state. I thought Rebecca did a pretty good job with that. And I don't have as much to say about Monica Fat-Lee's Joker since I think she kind of gets the least to do out of these three. But I thought the performance was pretty solid. I don't really have anything to complain about there. But the one who really sticks out about the Verdigris house is definitely Wendy Powell as the madam. I feel like Wendy Powell is an actor weirdly don't get to talk about much despite how long she's been around. Pretty much whenever I think of Wendy Powell, I pretty much exclusively think of Envy from FMA, and this is definitely pretty far from that. Like, I definitely heard her do Old Ladies before, but this is by far one of the funnier examples of that. Just like really, just really good crabby grandma energy. Just constantly on Maomao's case about absolutely everything. Trying to squeeze money out of her at every opportunity. She's just so delightful. And it's also great how she can kind of turn that on a dime to be serious every now and then whenever she needs to have a heart to heart with Maomao about something, or the whole thing where like or the whole flashback with Lock-On where she like flips out at him for having been gone so long. I thought Wendy's delivery there was really good. And definitely one of my favorite characters in the show, and I really liked Wendy's performance. But by far the strongest performance of these characters is definitely Ryokuō with Lock-On. I definitely had a pretty hard time trying to figure out exactly what this dude's deal was at first. I thought that Ryokuō did a pretty good job of kind of playing up the mystery, making him seem a bit shifty and not, making it hard to kind of figure out exactly what his intentions are. But as we learn a little bit more about his connection to Maomao and like everything that happened there, I do like that there are sort of like very interesting layers to this performance where you can tell he is kind of genuine about wanting to have a relationship with Maomao, but he's just kind of so used to, manipulating people and kind of, just kind of treating people like chess pieces. That this is pretty much the only way he can think of to approach that relationship, and you can definitely tell why Maomao doesn't like him. And I thought they got the awkwardness of that dynamic across pretty well. And this is more to do with like the show, the performance that he do. But I did find a way they kind of portrayed his facial blindness to be pretty interesting. I don't think you. It was definitely pretty interesting. I mean, I don't think you even in addition to notice itself. I think I definitely kind of read Lock-On as being neurodivergent in a sense, and I thought that Ryokuō got that across pretty well, and I thought the show handled a lot of that pretty well. Where you can tell this is a guy who's just not really used to dealing with people the same way a lot of others would, and I thought Rico got that across really well, and as messy as this character is, I thought the whole thing where he reunites with Maomao's mother was kind of sweet in its own way. And I thought the way that whole arc ended was pretty interesting. And so yeah, really solid performance, and I liked all these actors.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
I'll go.
Oh.
Oh, Jamal
Yep,
first,
you
then
do.
you.
You go, Jamal.
Alright, time to get the Verdigris house out the way. Wendy Powell was a good old lady. Well, good, good in quotation marks.
Maomao!
I mean, I like what she brings to the table and what she expects to be brought to the table. This is something I have heard before, and Wendy does a very good, very consistent job playing an old lady. In this case, an old lady who's willing to bring in more clients, otherwise she's willing to pimp Maomao out at any cost. And she's not being coy about it either. May, I really liked Rebecca Dene in this role. Like, okay, for I would admit the first time I saw the show, I thought that was Monica Flatley because I had not heard of either of these two actresses before I saw them in other stuff, and especially around the time Metallic Rouge came out, I thought, okay, May, okay, so that's Monica Flatley. Turns out not only did I have the actor wrong, I had the character wrong too. And Rebecca Dene is just a ton of energy that she brings to these crowds of ladies here. She it's funny because she feels more like I know they're all pretty much like they raised Maomao in this environment because when she was born she became a ward of the Verdigris house. And May is probably out of the three of them seems to be closest to the big sister that Maomao is accustomed to. Monica Flatley's Joker, I did not know that was Monica Flatley. They did great. I just wish Joker had a little more to do. I mean in the show, not just in the establishment, that we could see. Kieran Strange's Pyrene. My God. If Hardy were here, he'd probably say, "Man, I need a cigarette." Because, I mean, we know the types of characters that Kieran Strange is used to playing, but we don't ever see them play basically a prostitute, to which, wow, this is just neat and interesting. And especially that whole thing with raising Maomao in the back half of the season. I thought it was very impressive, all to say. I would say this though, because when I originally saw this first one, as the episodes were coming out, there was a stand-in for episode 8, Erin Nicole Lundquist. While they went back and fixed the broadcast episodes, because of course their own videos out, I just wanted to give her some props, because leave no stone. It's much like playing Go. Basically, leave no stone unturned.
Mm-hmm.
And now to get to the, I guess, the problematic men in this family, because
Lumen has done nothing wrong in his
Loman's
life.
a good boy.
Loman, I know Loman did nothing wrong. He got wrong did to him. So, he got done dirty. Also, I'm a dum-dum, and I didn't realize that Loman was Lakan's uncle. I did not know. I didn't even pay... It just goes to show, like, no matter how many times you can watch a show, you learn something new every day.
I think I only noticed that the second time I watched it.
I watched it twice already. I didn't notice that. Like, I think maybe I saw them playing Go, but my mind didn't really think of it.
It's very subtle because
Lakan has facial blindness. Like,
yeah, so it's the only way you know is if you pay attention to the voice with him.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was a failure on my part, but Stephen Miller, for as much as he gets to do in the show, he did a pretty solid job. Like, not only being father to Maomao, but being her teacher as well. So, but it's amazing the backstory we come to find out later. But that man really got done dirty by the Real Palace. Speaking of doing dirty deeds, Lakan. Jesus Christ. Like, even when you know that's Rico Fajardo, you didn't know that was Rico Fajardo because, let's be honest, how many times have you ever heard Rico Fajardo in a role like this?
Never, actually.
Exactly.
I think the closest in swarminess was maybe Werebel and Freerid, but Werebel's actually like a decent dude comparatively. So
Werebel's also, here's the thing though. Werebel also still looks like a teenager and kind of sounds like a teenager.
this is true.
Yeah.
I would actually say maybe the closest is his character in Aino Kusabi, who's like the only I know Rico's played adult men's before, but I think it's the tone of the character. Anyway, I'm gonna let Jamal finish.
Yeah, the tone of the character, the smarminess of the character, the cockiness of the character, the full of himself that he brings to the character. All solid and splendid job, especially when you get to Lacan's backstory and you find out that he's Maomao's real dad, because Jesus Christ. Also, that whole finger thing kind of scared me too, because I know Maomao had a nightmare basically, where she wakes up and her finger is about to be cut off. But then you look at her looking at her fingers. I'm like, wait, what exactly is going on here? Because I thought there was a finger that had been cut off. But yet, when you look at Maomao's hands, they look pretty normal though. Unless I'm missing something.
She cut her function cut off the tip of her pinky, which is why she says, "Did you know it can grow back?"
Okay, that part I do remember. But
also in some shots you can see that her pinky is a little bit out of alignment. Mm-hmm. But it's very subtly done.
Huh. So yeah, the attitude that Rico brings to this character is not like any I've heard before, and I think he did a spectacular job. And I can't wait to see him in season 2, or if he shows up in season 2. I have not touched the new episodes yet.
He hasn't shown up again so far, but I think he is. There is a character I think involved with him that is going to show up that has been mentioned. I'm gonna go next if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, Beth.
Go ahead. And I'm gonna start with him just because we're talking about him, and then go back the other way. I think his nephew is gonna show up soon.
He shows up in the second.
They mentioned in season. Yeah, because they very explicitly mentioned that he took in his nephew. And as for the neurodivergency thing, I don't care if anyone's gonna find this offensive because I think it's an absolutely true thing. The entire Law family is just autistic.
So much.
But I agree with you there.
Yeah, his they all are very hyperfixated on a very specific thing. Lumen is medicine like Maomao. Lacan is shogi, go, and tactical stuff. Also, I want to talk about the single funniest thing that that Lacan does in the entire show. And that is when they are at another garden party for introducing, Lowland, the new consort, is that he is eating food, has a mess on his hand, proceeds to grab the hat of the official in front of him, wipe his hands on it, and put it back on his head. Yeah. While the entire narration goes off about how fucking weird he is. So when I knew this character was going to show up, because I had started to read the manga right around when the anime really started in late 2023, my immediate casting idea went to this because they were grabbing a lot of big named actors from across the sphere, and very specifically a lot of big named Asian actors. My initial thought was that this was going to be played by Sungwon Cho.
You and me both, Megan. I think we messaged each other about this.
Yeah. I was like, this is going to be Sungwon Cho's character. So imagine my surprise when Ryokuō Fajardo shows up.
Yeah, I mean, in your defense, I definitely could have seen it.
I was absolutely floored by this, and here's the thing. I rewatched Shinya, I swear to God. Shinya! Psst, psst, psst. Hey! Yeah, I can see you, fuckface. she's deciding that she wants out, and her way of getting my attention is to knock things over, but I'm not going to do it, because I tried to let her out before, and she was like, no. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So, right around when I was rewatching this, I was watching Blue Lock for the first time. And if you don't know, Riko Fajardo is very much the lead of Blue Lock, Isegai. If you want here's the thing. A lot of people mistake somebody having a very specific voice for a lack of range. At first, I was like, bullshit, this is Riko Fajardo, it was Lock-On. Eventually, when I got used to it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is Riko. I can hear Riko's the way that Riko speaks in this. Because Riko does have a very distinct voice to me. If Riko Fajardo is in something, he is like an actress, like, yeah, I can pick him out. That is not a lack of range on an actor. His performance as Lock-On is something I've never seen him play before. He is very much, a lot of times, the shonen hothead character. And again, right now, the biggest thing that Riko is obviously, I think that a lot of people watch is Blue Lock, where he is the almost polar opposite of this character. Lock-On is somebody who is a schemer, who is a manipulator by trade. He is a tactics general. And he does not let his emotions flow openly. The only person he has this for is Maomao. And Maomao constantly pushes him off. The way that he talks about Fang Xian to Jinshi, as opposed to the way he speaks about Fang Xian in his own mind, is some of the most absolutely batshit insane range you'll ever see on an actor. Where he speaks about Fang Xian to Jinshi because he is taunting Jinshi. This man does not like that Jinshi is into his daughter. And we'll get to that when we talk about Jinshi, because I feel like that makes more sense to talk about with him. He is very cryptic, he is very cold, he is very calculating. Yet when in his own mind, he's talking about his tragic romance with Fang Xian, it is warm, it is self-deprecating, that he hates himself for this. And the thing is, too, is that he is also a bastard to Maomao at points, because he pretty much figured out what was going to happen with the assassination attempt. He was on his way there. He had to manipulate Maomao into putting the pieces together. And you do know that he cares about her in their Go game, where he deliberately, takes the poison for her, and it's not actually poison, she just got him drunk because he's a shitty drunk. But the fact of it is, he still uses his power to make a guard who has outright slapped his daughter and made her bleed and break her leg to go. And just, there's, at this point in time, the W Awards fan vote video is up. There's a reason a lot of us nominated Riko for Best Supporting Performance. It is probably, a highlight of his career. And now I have to go from talking a lot about Riko to talking about everybody else. I really like Stephen Miller's Loman. He is older, but he is very much firm and very much the instilled teacher voice. Wish he got to do more. Really loved Siren as Parine. I think they get the warmth down. They get just so much good out of that, and the gentleness. Unfortunately, Monica Flatley's Joka doesn't get to do as much, but I can hear it. God, Rebecca Dene is Maymay when Lock-On makes his choice. Because Lock-On notes that Maymay was the one that was trained by Fang Xian in Go. And he could have picked her. He was going to pick her. But she gave up her chance at freedom for Fang Xian in her death. And Rebecca's performance in that moment of that small little cry and letting him go, says a lot. And then there's Wendy Powell, my favorite secondary performance that isn't Riko. Wendy Powell's Madam of the Verdigris house lives rent-free in my head. She is the only way I can describe her is that this woman owns a bodega in Brooklyn and has beaten your cousin's ass. Just the way that she goes, you bring in that, like, just, she's so funny. And just, like, she is conniving and awful, and just her in, like, that growl that she has, and... But, like Jet said, when she has to bring on the dramatics, Wendy Lee can flip it on the thing of a hat. It's so good. Please watch the show. Like, it's so good. She also eats the scenery every time she is on in a comedic aspect. Like, this woman knows that she was top shit at one point, and she will never let anybody else forget that she was top shit. Beth, go ahead, and we'll see if the boys can figure out the connection between the connections here.
It's all in the eyes. So, let's see. In my notes, I have these in 2 sections. So let's start with what I dubbed the world's oldest profession, Happy Women's History Month. Let's talk about some sex workers.
Yeah!
So, for Wendy Pell as the madam, I gotta again with the lines in the show, I gotta call out 2 of my favorite lines. No gawking before paying, and go on, bleed 'em dry! Yeah, she was very good at sounding like a stern grandma who cares about you, but will also punch you in the stomach to make you throw up poison you ate, and will sell you to the highest bidder. I think you actually just summed it up perfectly, Megan. The madam is the New York grandma, Sweden is the Southern grandma.
Oh my god.
Tell me I'm wrong. But, let's see. Maymay, Rebecca was so good as Maymay. She gave her such a playful big sister vibe. And much like with everyone else on this show, you could very clearly tell when she was if you were paying attention, you could tell when she was putting on a front and when she was being genuine. Like, this poor girl is so clearly in love with Lakan, it hurts to look at. But, yeah, like we were saying, like, that, like, her crying at the end when Lakan chose Fengshan just stabs you right in the heart. Yep. Siren, where did this come from? It's Siren. Like, I've been listening to Siren's performance practically since they first came on the scene, and, like, I've never heard anything like this from Siren before, ever. I love Siren as Pyrene so much. And, I think Monica as Joka didn't talk a lot, but one thing I did love about Rebecca, Siren, and Monica as the 3 princesses is no matter which one was on screen or off screen, you could very clearly tell from the tone of their voice who was talking. Like I said, Rebecca gave Maymay a very playful big sister vibe. Siren gave Pyrene a very light and airy quality to their voice. And Monica gave Joka a very regal sounding tone. Like, you could tell who was talking no matter what, even before you knew distinctly who was who. And I really liked that. Now into the second part, which I have dubbed the less complicated family tree. More to come later. Caitlin's function, she did very well for her 5 lines. Wish she would have had more, but it is what it is. Steven's Loman, he had a very firm but loving tone to him. And I think this was the first time I'd ever heard Steven in a role, and he was very good. And if you pay attention, you can very clearly tell from the way he says certain things is he knows a lot more than he's letting on. Like, this man knows secrets. And he ain't not telling anybody. And now for this asshole. Lakan. Who are you and what have you done to Rico Pardo? Who are you? Where did this come from? Like, again, Rico's one of those ones who I've pretty much been sort of known his career since he's sort of started, like, in the big since he like first started getting known, and like I have never heard this type of voice from Ryokuō before, ever. Like, he sounds like such a shady ass bitch. Like, when he's talking to Jinshi and he reveals that he's Maomao's biological dad and that, spoilers, he knows who Jinshi really is, he sounds so snake-like. Like, it crawls under your skin just how he sounds during that scene. But one of my favorite moments from him is when Maomao is going to stop the ceremony because she doesn't know it, but Jinshi's about to be assassinated. When she gets beamed over the head with a mallet, and suddenly Lakan comes strolling up, and he looks at the guard, and the subtle venom in his voice when he's like, "You have hurt her." Like, oh, that was like, okay, whoever that guard is, you gotta run, and you gotta run now. Like, you are not going to survive this with your life. Or at least you better hope you don't survive it with your life, because if you live, it ain't gonna be pretty. Like, I've never heard this type of role from Ryokuō, and it was so good. Oh, and also when he, in the flashback, the absolute screams of pain when he's outside the Verdigris house and the madam is beating his ass with a broom. That, like, man, Ryokuō is so good in this. Like, nothing left to say. It was so good. Yeah, that's it for me.
Alright. So let's move on to the far more complicated family tree. Let's talk about the other Happy Women's Month. Let's talk about what can only be described as morally accepted prostitution? I don't know. Let's talk about the consorts and the main enforcers of the rear palace. I should have put him with palace staff, but basically he's running around here too. Let's talk about the one man in Consort City. That is Gaoshun. Gaoshun is Jinshi's right-hand man. He also does not get paid enough for this bullshit. He is also a father of 3 and married. I believe Maomao still believes he's a eunuch.
She does at that.
Yep.
This cat is intact. And then we have the 4 head consorts. There is... I've got to pull up what titles they are.
I know one's the virtuous consort.
Yeah, there's one. There's one of them. So first up, there is the precious consort, who is Gyokyo. She is Maomao's main boss woman. The greatest shipper on deck that isn't the emperor for Maomao x Jinshi. She is the one whose child survived everything because she took Maomao seriously. And ever since, she has kind of been the main person that Maomao interacts with as a boss. Then there is the wise consort, Lady Lihua. In the beginning of the series, her son and Gyokyo's daughter, Ling, were both sick with the same disease, where Gyokyo listened to the strange advice left for her. Lihua didn't and lost her son. And she began to get very sick until Maomao basically came in and fixed everything and got her back up on her feet. And she has been ever thankful to Maomao ever since. If Gyokyo's greatest gift is her personality, Lihua is her assets.
Them ripe fruits.
Them ripe fruits, baby. And she lives in what's called the Crystal Pavilion. Gyokyo lives in the Jade Pavilion. Then we have Lady Lishu. She is the pure, she is the virtuous consort, or the pure consort. And she lives in the diamond pavilion. She is 14!
We're gonna talk about her.
We're gonna talk about this. She was the late emperor's former consort when she was 9.
Hey, Emperor, I heard you like them young.
God damn it! Alright, we knew it was coming. Yeah, former emperor. We heard you like him young. And then there is the former pure consort, Lady Aduo. She and the emperor had a child 16 years ago. And she lost her ability to have children, yet he kept her around. She and the empress dowager switched children. She gave up her child, who is Jinshi, to her, to raise, and she took their son. Now, I have to say this now, and this is going to be spoilers for season 2, because I have to explain this, otherwise it's going to get a lot more complicated.
Oh, it's so complicated.
Why did they switch kids? This is at the point in time where I'm going to say heavy trigger warning for rape.
Mm-hmm.
Very heavy trigger warning. There is no point in dancing around this that the former emperor of the empire and the father of the current emperor was a pedophile. There is no sugarcoating it. The series does not sugarcoat it. He was into young girls because of a fear of adult women, likely brought on by the Empress Dowager then.
It's currently called the Empress Regnant.
The Empress Regnant. The current Emperor Dowager, aka the woman you see holding Ling Ling at the garden party, was 10 years old when she had her first shot, when she had the Emperor. I'm going to make that clear. She was a 10-year-old child. Time passes till she becomes an adult, and the Emperor at the time, the pedophile one, became afraid of her. She, in a very complex set of things, rapes him. She forced herself on him to have a child to make him afraid. Or to at least make her afraid. And he locked himself away from younger girls.
She did that so that he would no longer do that to anyone else.
In her clarity, she felt she could not love that child that she conceived with him that day. So she and Aduo switched, knowing that her son would have a better shot at life, and the Empress Dowager, so that she wouldn't have to live with the guilt of that child. They switched. Aduo's head lady in waiting killed the Empress Dowager's child by accident. She kept feeding him honey, and he died because of that. Because you cannot give a small child honey. Eventually, Aduo leaves the palace because she can no longer have children. And I think it's implied she kind of also wanted to get out at that point. So she leaves, and another consort named Lolin comes in. Unfortunately, we do not know who voices Lolin at this time.
Lolin hasn't talked.
They were never credited in season 1. Yeah, they were never credited. Also, yeah, she does not talk. So, with that out of the way, and I do apologize for how heavy that got, but that is something just to make it a little less confusing for when we talk about certain character aspects. So, playing Gaoxuan is Alex Hom, playing Gyokyo is Molly Zhang, playing Li Hua is Trina Nishimura, playing Li Shu is Rochelle May, and playing Aduo, who is also the narrator of the show, is Monica Rial. Alex Hom, you'll know his characters as Renosuke Kunigami in Blue Lock, Yoshida in Higehiro, and Yukinari Arima in Windbreaker. Molly Zhang, you'll know his characters such as Anna Saito in Laid Back Camp, Emule in Shangri-La Frontier, and Ai Tennoji in Shy. Trina Nishimura, you'll know his characters such as Bebe Yang in Anime Gatories, Sally in Black Clover, and Yuki/Jue in You Are Miss Servant. Rochelle May, you'll know as Sibe in Chilling in Another World with My Level 2 Cheat Powers. Yuki Suo in Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. And, And Theodore Classico in Delico's Nursery. And Monica Rial, you know as characters such as Mei Misaki in Another, Michiko Melandro in Michiko and Hachin, and Alma in Radiant. I'm going to start because I just keep talking and I just want to vomit all my words out now.
All right.
Start with Ottawa and the narrator. We love when Monica Rial gets to play an adult woman.
Hooray!
I love her take on Ottawa. I love the maturity and like. Is it weird to describe a woman's voice like red, like a lush red wine?
No, it fits.
Like, it's so smooth. Like, let's be real. I'm like the Emperor. I want a piece of that. Like, hot damn, dude. Now I know why you why he was really fucking into her. Also, shout out to the Emperor, who's played by Alex Mai. But, holy shit, in her narrator voice, top tier.
Yep.
Gonna go to Luciu next. Good God, this poor child. I know Beth is definitely caught on this, because, you know, she also reads the novels and stuff. Jet and Jamal, did you all catch that basically Ottawa and the Emperor treated Luciu like their daughter?
Yeah, I did definitely catch that.
Yeah, he basically took her on again to protect her from other people. Rochelle May's performance as Luciu is very cute and very bratty, which she is, and she's a girl being bullied. Her handmaids set her up to fail often and, you know, tried to poison her to bully her. But I really like the performance. I really hope she gets to do more as the show goes on. I think she is absolutely adorable as Luciu. Oh man! Trina Nishimura. I don't think I've gotten to see Trina play a character like this ever. Like, her quiet fury, the anguish she feels, the cracks in her voice when she's sick. Just, she has this presence to her that is gentle and yet imposing at the same time. And honestly, some of the stuff that goes on with her, especially when she is trying to find the will again to live after her son's death, is top-notch. But also her reaction to Maomao teaching her the greatest magic of all.
Oh,
the tit job.
Tiggle bitties.
Just tiggle bitties. Maomao's 769 ways to blow the Emperor's mind. I really liked it. I genuinely, it's just kind of something weird that you say, and it's mostly because a lot of anime doesn't have this. And we've been watching dubs for a long time. It is so nice to see people we've seen play, like, teenage girls a bunch play adult women. Because, like, Li Hua's in her 20s. She's 23. She is absolutely awesome. And I definitely love the devotion that she puts into her performance. How much she cares, how much she, you know, just loves them. And then Molly Zhang's Gyokyo. I am not super familiar. I was at the time not super familiar with Molly Zhang as an actress. At the point where I had started watching this, I had never watched Laid Back Camp, which is kind of, I think, the big break that she got it in. Her Gyokyo has such a effortless charm to her that it's like Molly just is not acting, she's just being herself. and she plays Gyokyo with this kind of like fun at mom energy, like not the mom in Mean Girls that's like, I'm not gonna tell you where you hid the weed kind of thing, but like there's such a genuine kindness and caring in her voice, and I love every second that she's on, and I want only good things for this woman. And then there's Gaoshun. Alex Hom plays Gaoshun with the energy of a man who has raised too many children, does not get paid enough for this, and still has to go to work, and yet also loves every second of it. There is a tiredness in his voice and a maturity, but it never comes off as mean-spirited or like, I fucking hate all of you. It's very much more, I respect you. I don't respect your methods, but I respect the output. And as somebody who, again, was also not super familiar with Alex Hom's work until recently, because, hey, like I said, up until about a month ago, I had never watched a lot of stuff that he had been in, especially Blue Lock, which is by and far the kind of most known thing. Gaoshun and Kunigami have a very similar register, which is kind of funny because they're both like 20 years apart in age. But I really like it, and I would definitely like to get to see Alex Hom in more things and hear him in more things. So, who wants to go next?
I request to go last because I have a thing.
All right.
In that case, I'll go next.
Okay, go ahead, Jamal.
So, starting off, Monica Rial is both audio and the narrator. Yeah, I agree. We do like it when we hear Monica's big girl voice, but this kind of feels more than just that, though. I think in some ways she managed to project a little bit of masculinity in it, because the whole thing with Oddworld as a character is that, you know, the facial features of it almost seems like it's kind of tomboyish, and Monica somehow managed to change her voice perspective to kind of match that uniquely, and I thought it did very well for itself. I was surprised. I mean, it's Monica Rial, I shouldn't be surprised, but somehow, some way she manages to surprise us. Rochelle May is Li Shu. It's amazing you list Yuki Suo from Aria, because yeah, she does play Li Shu's little bratty, you know, a little unnerved because, you know, there are people out for her, out against her. They just love to mess with her, treat her unfairly a little bit. It's not her fault, the way she's been coming into this upbringing, you know. She didn't ask for this. She just wanted to live a quiet and peaceful life. Instead, she's being bullied. But the way Rochelle manages to portray her was very unique, very sad too. And then there were also some times Li Shu can be a little comedic, but that's when it came to the secret lessons that Maomao was teaching every consort, and multiple times you could just see her head being blown, her mind being blown. It's constantly. It's like I shouldn't be laughing at that, but it was kind of funny.
Banging her head against the wall. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Yeah,
I won't do it.
I mean, nobody's gonna force her to. But anyway, Trina Nishimura, yeah. I mean, I can think of a couple of adult characters I've seen her play, but like not to this degree where she has to have an air of maturity to her, even though, you know, she suffered a huge loss back at the beginning of the show. She manages to overcome that, and it took not only Maomao's bravery, but Liha's willingness to survive in order to overcome that. Because, you know, when she falls ill after the death of her child, like, you would think she wouldn't have a will to live anymore, and then all of a sudden, Maomao points out, like, if she didn't have a will to live, she wouldn't have accepted Maomao's help. So, especially after when Maomao slapped a few of one of the nurses in waiting for disobeying orders. That was fun. Mari Zhang is Gyokyo. Well, first off, I think it's the first time I've talked about Mari Zhang outside the W, because I am familiar with her work. As a matter of fact, I gave her voice actor to watch for Shikimori, Not Just a Cutie, because I was impressed by her in that, because while I thought, she sounded like, reminded me of After You, but with a bit of a lisp added to it. I started to listen to her voice more and more as time went on, and then when I heard her as Gyokyo, I was like, oh, I wonder who she is. And then I hear this lady, I'm like, wait a minute, that's Molly Zhang? Bullshit, that's Molly Zhang. But I really like what she brought to the table. This mom energy to this mother that I'd love to be friends with. I thought it's it's kind of hard to put into words, because Gyokyo is an interesting character all her own, actually. But I know that's going to be in like season 2, and I can't wait to see what Molly brings to the table. And Alex Thomas Gauchwin, again, air of maturity to his character. We find out that he and Jinshi have some secrets, because, as we mentioned, Gauchwin has 3 kids and a grandchild. Maomao thinks he's still a eunuch. And we all know now that Gauchwin ain't half the man he used to be. So, the fact.
Oh no, Gauchwin's still intact.
So having learned what I learned about both him and Jinshi is really interesting, how he has to play up both sides of the character, even though like it doesn't really feel as such. But I think that's because it's more on Jinshi and how he portrays himself, and Gauchwin having to be, not the wingman, I guess the backup, or the cleanup, basically. The nanny, the whatever you want to call him.
I refer to him as Jinshi's handler.
Handler, that's it. Bodyguard handler. I just thought Alex Thomas Gauchwin was very interesting, and he did the job very well. I think you're up, Jet.
Yep.
Sure. You know what? I'll start with Alex Thomas Gauchwin. I don't. So, this is the first. I think this is the first time I've really heard him in anything. So, I wasn't quite. So I didn't really know what to expect out of this, but I thought he did a pretty good job. Like you guys were saying, he does a pretty good job of giving off very tired dad energy. And you can tell that he does like his job, but that it can be very exasperating, kind of deal with Jinshi and all his constant antics. And I think that Alex does a pretty good job of getting that across pretty well. And I think that he also does a pretty good job of kind of getting that energy across whenever he's around Maomao. And doing a good job of kind of like humoring her antics, but also kind of knowing when to rein her in when need be, and kind of being one of the few people who can, which I think is pretty funny. And I thought that Alex got a lot of that across really well. I really liked the character a lot. He was a lot of fun. Let's see, Monica Rial as Leonardo. We didn't really see too much of this character in the season, so I don't really have a whole ton to say about the performance. But it's always nice getting to see Monica play more mature characters, and I thought she got that energy across pretty well. It was definitely kind of interesting seeing like her one interaction with Maomao on the roof, where she's just kind of like just kind of contemplating how things have gone as she's about to leave the rear palace, and I thought that whole conversation was pretty interesting. I thought the performance was really solid. Risho May as Li Shu, I thought did a pretty good job of kind of getting the whole kind of like naive child in over her head thing. Kind of well, you can definitely tell this character is just sort of like it's just kind of doing it a lot. Like no one, like there really aren't a lot of people around, kind of willing to look out for her, and I think that Rachel kind of did a good job of kind of getting across how out-of-depth she feels a lot of the time, and equally I thought she was pretty good with her interactions with Monica Rial's Aina, where you can definitely tell that she kind of views Aina was a mother, and you could really feel that dynamic there. And I thought that whole thing was pretty sweet. It was kind of, made me feel a lot more bad for her when Aina was gone, and she just really didn't have anyone left to look out for her. But yeah, I like what I've heard of the character so far. I'm kind of definitely interested to see where things go with the second season. And then Trina Nishimura as Liwa, like you guys were saying, definitely definitely a bit of an older character compared to what I'm usually used from Trina Nishimura. Like I definitely heard her play in old characters before, but but this is this one is definitely well, not necessarily on the soldier side, but you can definitely tell he had to like really give a very like mature air about her, and I thought that Trina did a really good job with that, especially a lot of her interaction with Maomao and Goku, where she has to like really, like really play up the facade and kind of like act absurd and gold, and I thought that she did a really good job with that. And then the transition between that and like everything we kind of like everything we see her going through after the Watson kid, and then like the whole thing where she's basically on her deathbed for a while, and Maomao has to take care of her. I thought she did I thought she really good. I thought she did a pretty good job there, and it was kind of interesting seeing how the dynamics between her and Maomao changed after that, where she and where they aren't like necessarily friendly towards each other, but you can definitely tell she has a lot more respect for her, and it's just kind of looking out for her a bit whenever the two of them are at each other. I thought that was interesting. And then Molly Zhang is Lady Gyoko. I don't have too much basis for Molly Zhang other than the one season of Blade Back Camp I saw. I need to watch the dub for the other seasons. Definitely been a backlog shame there. But yeah, I really liked what I heard of Molly. I really like what I heard of Molly. Definitely does a pretty good job of making Gyoko kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily come off as like the most mature person in the room, but you can definitely tell that compared to like a lot of the other concubines, she's kind of the one who's the most put together. She knows what she's here for. She knows what she's about, and I think that Molly gets that confidence across pretty well. And it's just kind of fun just sort of seeing her kind of dance rings around other characters. Like she's one of the few people who can put Maomao in her place. She's also one of the few people who can put Jinshi in his place, and it's really funny whenever she gets to interact with them. And you can also tell that she's the person who's kind of used to having to deal with a lot of the politics of the inner court and all the inner dealings there, and you can definitely tell this character who kind of knows how to read the room and how to read people, and I think that Molly gets a lot of that across pretty well too. And body whole, this is a really well-rounded performance, and I was really impressed with what I heard of it.
All right, Beth, here you go.
Let's start with Jinshi and by proxy Maomao's handler, Gaoshun. AKA, he may have been your father boy, but he ain't your daddy. Because this man raised Jinshi, you can tell. Alex does a really good job of making him sound like a very tired man who's just trying his best, but Jinshi meeting Maomao was the best and worst thing to have ever happened to him. He's just very good at sounding very low-key and very unassuming, but again, like with most other people in this show, he knows more than he's letting on. When he first called, this man, within 5 minutes of meeting Maomao, started calling her Lady Maomao. It's like, oh, this man knows. these two have only known each other for 5 minutes, but he knows. Like, he knows what's up with her and Jinshi. Like, he knows where this is going. And the absolute shit-eating grin on his and Suiden's face when they give Maomao her makeover so she can go hang out with Jinshi on the town for a day. I love Gaoshun so much. Now let's talk about the Real Housewives of the Inner Palace. Let's see. Let's start with Lady Gyokyo. Molly gives her such a sort of semi-childlike quality to her voice, to where she is constantly underestimated, and she wants it that way. Like, when at the very beginning of the series, when her and Liwa's child, when Lingling and Liwa's son are sick, there's this very understanding but disappointed tone in her voice when Jinshi tells her that the doctor is tending to Liwa's son, and she's just like, oh, I see. Like, there's just a very specific tone to her voice that was so good. And this girl just loves the drama. Like, she's 19 years old and living her best life. Like, she loves teasing Maomao and Jinshi, but she absolutely will not take any BS from either of them. And it's so good. Trina as Lihua was... I've never heard this type of voice from Trina before. Like, again, in the first episode, when she's crying over her child, like, that was just pure, raw emotion, and I could feel that. And also the weaknesses and the cracks in her voice when she's sick. And you can tell if you go back and you listen to Lihua's tone in the first episode versus like around the garden party, like after she's recovered, you can tell that there's a very clear difference in her tone. Like, this is a woman who has fought through hell and come back and is not the same. And again, it's only from the first episode. It's only from a couple of lines in the first episode to around the garden party, which I think is like around episode 6 to 8. But you can very clearly tell a difference in her tone, and it was so good. Monica is Aduo, our androgynous queen. We love her. Again, Aduo doesn't really have very many lines. You mostly hear Monica as the narrator, but what she does have as Aduo is really good. The sort of, I don't even know if it's despair, but just the way she speaks to, when we get the flashback of when her quote-unquote child dies, the tone in her voice when she's speaking to her servants is just so sort of deadpan and just devoid of any type of emotion, and it's so good. And also on the rooftop with Maomao, you can tell just how tired she is, because here's the thing with Aduo is she never wanted this life. Like, she was brought into this life because she and the Emperor fell in love because they grew up with each other. They were milk siblings. So she very clearly, like, this was never a life she wanted, but she would do it in order to be with him for as long as she could. And sadly, losing her womb when she did, and then losing as far as the wider world knew, her child, basically put a timer on how long she could be with him. Like, it's stated, I think, by Jinshi that this had been a long time coming when she left. Like, it was very clearly like, the Emperor kept her around as long as he possibly could. But pressure from outside people, like Lulan's father, very clearly was like, okay, in order to make sure that she gets out of this alive, we gotta get her out and get her and put someone new in. So it's very interesting. So it's very interesting just to, once you understand the dynamics, to go back and look at certain scenes and certain choices that were made. Holy shoo. I will protect this baby girl with my life. I will protect her with everything in me. Rochelle, I don't think I'd ever heard Rochelle before Li Shu, and she brings such an innocence to Li Shu's voice, to where I honestly believe that this girl was 14 years old, who is not in any way prepared for this position that she's in, but she is here, and she's clearly trying to rely on the people around her, but she can't, because they do not have, because at the very least the ladies in her court do not have her best interest at heart. And the only people who did were Aduo and the Emperor, because here's something that I think you're going to find out at some point. You might, I don't know if you'll find out in the anime or not, is that Li Shu was sold to the previous Emperor by her family as a way for them to come up in the world. Is that...
Poor baby.
Yeah, she was basically given as a bribe to the Emperor when she was 9 years old. Because the Emperor being what he was, the previous Emperor being what he was an open secret. Like, everyone who had any dealings within the palace knew what the previous Emperor was. And we're really gonna find out in terms of the Empress Dowager Lady Anshi, I think in the next episode of what's currently airing. Like, we're really gonna get into that. Yeah, in the dub, yeah. We're really gonna get into that. But as far as Li Shu goes, like, she was sold into this, and again, you don't realize this the first time around, but when you go back and watch, that's why Aduo was basically her protector. She wasn't just looking after Li Shu because she was a young girl in the palace. She was looking after her specifically to protect her from the previous emperor. And I'm not sure if it's stated as to why the current emperor took her back as a consort, but it's very clear that either he did it for Aduo or he did it in order to protect Li Shu from something else. Because again, this is a 14-year-old baby, and who has been used by her family to get up in the world. And Aduo and the Emperor and the Dowager Empress know this, and are doing everything that they can to protect this baby. And now let's get into the child marriage of it all. Because, again, with my history brain, I couldn't not go down this rabbit hole. Let's talk about why child marriage isn't a thing. And when it is a thing, it's not how you think it is. So, there's a thing that used to happen back in the day where it's called proxy marriage, where two people would get married before they were of legal age to get married. Now, what is legal age? It's determinative, but usually most people would not get married until they would not consummate the marriage until they were both about 17 or older. Because, see, here's the thing. Even back in the day, people knew that the older you are, the better chance you have to survive childbirth. Because that was the whole thing, was to get children. Another thing about child marriages is, again, they didn't happen the way you think they did, but also they were strictly for royalty. Your common folk weren't getting married until they were like 20s, and that was only when they could afford it. So, the whole thing about 30-year-olds getting married to 15-year-olds, yeah, it happened, but the 30-year-old didn't touch her until she was closer to 20. Because again, the whole point was for them to have children and keep the bloodline. I'm not sure of any... I'm going to reference two of the most famous Western examples of people pointing out why this is weird, and they are current to their times. Let's talk about one historical and one fictional. For fictional, we have Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, who was 13 when her father attempts to betroth her to the, I think at the very least, mid-20s Paris. And it is commented on that is weird. Not only that her father is marrying her off at 13, but that Paris wants her when she is 13. And it is commented on multiple times that is weird, and it isn't good. Now let's talk about a real-world example, which actually fits very neatly onto Lady Anshi, the Empress Dowager, and that is Margaret Beaufort. Margaret Beaufort is most famously the mother of Henry VI, aka Henry Tudor, aka the start of the Tudor dynasty. Margaret Beaufort was married to the, I think, 20-year-old Owen Tudor when she was 12 years old, and had Henry when she was 13. Infamously, this caused for her to what happened to her was basically what happened to Auduo. She lost her womb and very nearly died in childbirth. So she could never have another child after Henry because, and again, this was seen as wrong and at the time, but they were at war and Owen Tudor was desperate to continue the bloodline. But again, even at the time, everybody was saying how that was bad and wrong. So yeah, child marriage, not a thing. At least not the way everybody tries to say it is.
Thanks, Beth. Alright, are we all good to move on to the last group of characters?
I'll be right back. I gotta grab my cord because my computer's dying.
No, don't die, computer! Alright, well, Beth's grabbing your cord. Let's talk about our main pair, our dynamic duo, Maomao and Jinshi. Jinshi is a eunuch. A 24-year-old eunuch who is in charge of the rear palace. He is, in fact, the Emperor's actual biological son, / currently posing as the Emperor's brother. So why is Jinshi there? So Jinshi challenged his dad to a game of Go and was like, hey, if I win, I don't have to take over as heir. And Emperor was like, bet. And then Dad lost, so now Jinshi's here. Jinshi's day consists of running the rear palace and finding out all of the things going on, while also breaking the hearts of many, many women along the way, because he is so beautiful that Maomao, like Beth had said earlier, Maomao says that he could topple an empire just with his looks alone. He is beautiful, he is charming, he's got the personality of a wet paper bag on your shoe when he likes you. He is up Maomao's butt constantly trying to get her affection and tease her, but Maomao, being Maomao, doesn't want to admit she wants things to do with him, because Maomao doesn't like... Maomao, the best way I can describe Maomao is, I like poison better than people. She is a 16-year-old girl who has lived through basically living in the pleasure district, so much so that she puts clay on her face to make herself look less appealing so that she won't be grabbed by people. And when she first starts working at the rear palace, she tries to fend that she is stupid so that she doesn't get wrapped up into more things. Unfortunately, her good nature and desire to help people as an apothecary wins out, and she ends up as a poison tester. She is... The best way to describe her is as the show does, and her name means she is a lot like a stray feral cat. Warm 1 second and then wanting to bite your little hand off the next. She is Sherlock Holmes. She is smart, capable, but she doesn't want to put 2 and 2 together for everything because her father told her that saying conjecture out loud isn't good. She basically knows things before others, but the biggest secret of all is literally smacking her in the face, and she doesn't want to admit it. Playing Jinshi is Keiji Tang, and playing Maomao is Emmy Lowe. Keiji Tang you'll know as characters such as Bill in Beastars, Osamu Dazai in Bungo Stray Dogs, and Archer in Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. Emmy Lowe you'll know as characters such as Kate in Shadow's House, Uta in Bubble, and Mokoto Ira in Horimiya. Now before we get started, raise your hand if any of us actually thought like a major California actor was going to be in this show.
Not even on your list.
I mean,
Not a chance in hell.
I mean, we've seen them bend the rules occasionally, so it wasn't off the table. But
the fact that it was Keiji Tang.
Yeah. I'll say it first and I'll let other people go into. They are absolutely perfect playing off each other.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll go first with section again. Keiji Tang's born to play little shits like Jinshi. We have various flavors of Keiji Tang playing a little shit. He is sexy when he needs to be, because the show knows when he has to be sexy. Fan service Jinshi shots. He is funny. He has this sense of both regality and, like, smarm to him. And I love the moments with him where you see Jinshi drop all false faces to be genuine, like when he's talking to Maomao about how she put clay on her face and how he wishes he could do more to patrol that area so that girls wouldn't go through that. Keiji is good at being Jinshi at his most genuine and at his most asshole. Less asshole and more troll, I guess. And the thing is that it works so well coming off of Maomao, Emmy Lowe's Maomao, who is, as much as you would probably not think, Maomao is almost genuine in all of her interactions, in a sense. Where she obviously puts on a face for some things, but at other points she genuinely lets people in. When I said that I thought that, listen, making my predictions for this show, I knew Emmy Lowe was going to be Maomao, and I was bracing myself for it the entire time. And I was like, it's the safe choice, it's what's gonna happen. Originally, I thought it would be interesting to get Afia Yu as Maomao. And then episode 3 happened.
Slap heard around the world.
It wasn't the slap. It was the way that she spoke. Emmy spoke as Maomao. And we use it in our clip for the W's performance for a reason. If that wasn't the moment that locked in not only Emmy Lowe's Maomao as a performance to sit and pay attention, let alone one of the best of their career, I don't know what you're on. Like, that scene has all of the... You know how when people say there are two types, that there's an angry scarier than somebody raging and roiding out at you?
Quiet anger is worse.
Yeah, imagine that so concentrated down that it is uncomfortable to look away from. That is Emmy's performance when she slaps Li Hua's attendant for poisoning her again. And I genuinely want to know what you guys think in regards to these two performances so much.
Can I go next, or do either
I
of you
guess
go?
And just people just go.
Well, first of all, I didn't think I could. Oh,
You know,
I didn't think I could love a KG Tang roll more than Dazai, but this is a close second. And anyone who knows me knows how much I love Dazai from Bungo Stray Dogs. Like, everything about Jinshi, like, I gotta call out a couple of lines. I suppose I could seduce her a little. I've never had anyone look at me so harshly in my life. And if it helps, I can come inside. Like, what the? Like, sir, you can't just say these things. And also
this show has a honey scene to rival.
Oh, Natsu Hyuga, the author,
The
looked at the honey scene in Yona and said, bet. Like, the sparkles around Jinshi could kill a man. And also, again, like what Megan was saying, like the softness in his voice when he's talking to Maomao about why she puts on the freckles, like it's just so gentle. And at the complete reverse of that, when Maomao has Lee Haku take her home, and Jinshi's there, and he's such a petulant child, and the way he's just like, good time, when after she comes home, it's just like, sir, I know that you're actually like 18, 19, but you're supposed to be acting like you're in your mid-20s, and you're not. And also that scene when Maomao asks him about if she is sentenced to die, if she could choose her own manner of death. Like, the offense in his voice when she's asking him this, it's like, no, I would never let anything happen to you. But she's like, well, no, you wouldn't, but there are people higher up than you, or people who would have more say in that. And he's just so resigned but offended at the same time. And I gotta call out again one of my favorite scenes. Drunk Jinshi is sad and clingy Jinshi. And when Aduo is leaving and he just hugs Maomao and just cries on her back for a little while, and just the absolute heartbreak in his voice when he says, please don't go, keep me warm just a while longer. Like, that stabbed me through the heart. Because the thing with Jinshi is, again, he's 18, 19 at the start, but he's supposed to act like this. He's supposed to, according to like what everyone in the palace thinks, because no one knows what the emperor's quote-unquote younger brother looks like. So Jinshi being there is like, he's supposedly this 24-year-old eunuch who's the emperor's favorite. But there's just times when that facade cracks. And it only cracks for Maomao. And like when Maomao's gonna get sent away, and he's just having this internal war with himself, where he wants her to stay so bad, but he doesn't think he has the right to ask that of her. Because in truth, he doesn't. He wants it to be her choice, but he wants her to choose to stay. And oh man, when last point about Jinshi is when is after Lulan comes as the new consort, and he and Gao Shun are walking along the bridge, and he has this inner monologue with himself about how he wants about how he's saying the emperor should just father a new crown prince already. The absolute self-loathing in his voice when he thinks that. Jinshi does not want any of this. Like, Jinshi kind of hates himself because here's the main thing about Jinshi is there are 3 people, possibly 4, but 3 people who know that Jinshi is actually the Emperor and Aduo's son. That is Empress Dowager, the Emperor, Aduo, and possibly Loman. Jinshi does not know that he is the Emperor's son. So, as far as he knows, he's the child of a pedophile. And here's, again, a thing we're going to find out. He looks a lot like him. Like, he's practically his spitting image. And Jinshi absolutely hates himself because of that.
How do you feel about
Yeah,
Emmy,
that's
though?
not even getting to Emmy. Oh my gosh, Emmy. Emmy has such a good husky tone to their voice that I think for you, Megan, it was the way Emmy, it was the way that Emmy talked during the slap that sold Maomao for you. For me, it was all of what I have dubbed the Maomao noises. where Maomao just randomly, out of nowhere, makes little cat noises. Or just little, like onomatopoeia noises, like boing, boing. Like,
Yeah.
she just... Maomao... Again, Maomao is going back to what we were talking about earlier. Maomao is Exhibit A that neurodivergence is absolutely an inherited trait in your family. Like, the Law Clan, neurodivergence, example 1. Like, the entire family. And Emmy's so good with the dichotomy and how clinical Maomao is, usually, versus how excited she is every time poison is brought up. Or referenced, or anything that she has a hyperfixation on. Like when she goes into what I have termed CSI Maomao. With her super sniffer.
Sniff, sniff, sniff. Sniff, sniff, sniff.
Like, oh gosh, I can't remember when it was, but when Jinshi gives her as a reward for helping him, he gives her booze, and she's like, "Booze!" Just the way that Emmy said that line killed me.
I think one of my other favorite ones from her is when he says that he's gonna get her the ox.
The ox
thing.
bezoars.
The ox bezoar.
Yeah, the ox bezoar. And she
Like,
out.
she literally forgets herself so much that she climbs onto his desk. That is how excited she is. And again, I think something that Emmy's so good at is the absolute anger and venom in her voice when Lockhon is so much as hinted at. And again, something that you don't really notice unless you pay attention throughout, just specifically, or if you watch it multiple times, is again the difference in Maomao's voice between the first episode and the last episode of season 1. Her voice becomes lighter as she grows more comfortable in the rear palace and around Jinshi and Gyokyo and all the other people in the rear palace. And again, something that you might not notice except for multiple watch throughs, or like me and Megan having read the manga and the light novels, is Mamo's the most unreliable narrator to ever narrate. Like, this girl will literally think through the absolute, she's like when Lakan first comes on the scene, she's like, huh, weird old man, monocle, in the army. Doesn't have anything to do with me, let's go! And also when she's putting together the pieces of the possibility of Aduo and the Empress Dowager's child being switched at birth. Again, she gets you halfway there, and then she's just like, well, not going to think about that anymore. Out of my head. No more. Like, that's the thing, is Maomao is so smart, and she puts together things that honestly that she shouldn't, but she knows she shouldn't, which is why she then immediately puts it out of her head and honestly forgets it. Because she's like, I shouldn't know this, therefore I'm not going to. But that's when you have to pay the most attention, because that's when the show is telling you everything. Is when Maomao chooses to ignore something. That's when it's important. But yeah, Keiichi Tang, Emilo, really freaking good.
Next.
Alright, so Keiichi Tang being in this anime was something out of left field even I didn't expect. I don't know how Sean did it, but hats off to him, because Keiichi Tang is probably one of the most well-known versatile voice actors of our generation to this day. And I've met the guy, and I don't know if it's telling that maybe I should be watching more of his performances or something, but I've met the guy, I've heard the way he sounds, and I can't even remember if this is his natural voice or something close to it, because that's how much he can like easily disappear into a role, like just like that. And we love him all the more for that. So him having to play a dude who's playing another dude, basically, because, you know, Jinshi has to put on airs around everybody, because we all know his true secret, that he's really that he's a 19-year-old playing a 24-year-old eunuch, and he has to take this special medicine to, I guess, keep him impotent or flaccid, for lack of a better term. So he's literally playing dude side of another dude, but he doesn't know the secret that awaits him, as you and Beth have pointed out. So having to do all of that is, I mean, Jinshi's already a complex person well enough, and then there was, okay, I watched this twice already. I probably might have missed something, but the whole scene where he asked Maomao to give him a disguise so that he can sneak out of the real palace and go to this.
Oh yeah, we have not talked about that.
Yeah, I might. Did I miss something, or is that going to be explained at a later date? Because.
Oh, of why they did that?
Yeah. I watched.
Oh, that was 100% just Lakan fucking with him.
Oh, I thought there was like maybe some significance to it.
No, Lakan just wanted to fuck with him.
No, that was with him.
Lakan, you asshole.
Okay, I think the reason was one, Lakan's gonna fuck with him because Lakan doesn't want him getting with his daughter. Second, I think he was doing it too so that, you know, Jinshi would ask her, how do you decrease a
person's value?
The value of a prostitute? Yeah. Because remember, when he's talking to Jinshi, he says to him, you're well acquainted with somebody who can tell you how that happens. I.e., go ask Maomao. She should know best of all, because that happened to her mom.
Yeah, he's absolutely setting that up.
Yeah, he's being a dick.
Yeah, okay then. But yeah, for what it's worth, Katie did a very spectacular job playing the character so complex that not even now. I really hope he doesn't know the secret yet. Not until this season that's out right now. And speaking of complex, Emmy Lowe is Maomao. Now, see, when you said the safe choice, I thought you could say safe choice because in Japanese it's Aoyuki. And
Nope.
which is funny because the only other character I know both of them for is Lucy from Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and that's a whole different conversation.
No, I did it explicitly based off of Maomao's personality.
Yeah, and Maomao's personality is already kind of complex, and Emmy Lowe is also a complex person because one thing with Emmy Lowe, well, how the hell do I describe this? All I know is Emmy Lowe definitely could display a wide range and a wide set of skills, and not only that, they too can also disappear themselves to any role they take on. Like I've seen the cosplay of Maomao and Lucy. I also seen them cosplay Arena from is it Rika? Their character from the new Higurashi, which oh
I think it's Rika. I think she's Rika. They're Rika.
Rina Ryugu, that's what the name.
Yeah.
Rina, yeah.
Yeah, and that just shows their dedication to how well they can play characters. So seeing them play Maomao, and yeah, Maomao definitely has some quirks to them, like of course the onomatopoeias. That's probably my favorite part of the characters. Is, also when she's being Fella's cat when it comes to certain situations that Maomao doesn't like or disgusts her. And then, of course, there's naivete in being the world's worst narrator, but then again, that's just her internal monologue. And then there's the conjecture that basically, I know you, I know you described it earlier. You didn't want to describe it as like house, but when you said Sherlock, it kind of hit me because I was doing a media thread on Blue Sky last night, and I said I had a hard time putting this into words. I said it's basically a cross between the survival of the fittest, which she has to rely on her smarts because she was brought against her will and put into this situation that she's trying to find a way out of, and a CBS procedural drama to which I could not figure out whether to quote CSI, CIS, and then I remembered there's a new show out. I can't remember. It's Watson with Morris Chestnut.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that
yet.
yet.
And it gave me that exact vibes. I've not seen the show, but they did do something similar with the whole Sherlock thing on CBS. But that's neither here nor there. What I can say is, Emmy Lowe did very spectacular, and they were able to keep the character very nuanced at times when need be, and very ecstatic when needed to. I mean, it's amazing how you can sense the emotion in their eyes, even when they kind of look lifeless. I will say, though, one of my favorite scenes in that show is when Maomao is moved up to a lady in waiting for Lady Gyokyo, and the lady that kind of extends her pay to her captors basically pulls a reverse Oron on her by
Hangyang, yeah.
Yeah, the Hanya. Yeah. Just dropping that teapot, the ceramic teapot, goes, oops. Ooh, that's an irreplaceable item. That's gonna come out of your paycheck. I was like, well, normally when somebody would do something like that, you would be kind of irritated. But knowing that the money's going to their captors, she basically said, fuck them bitches.
We may have to charge your family directly.
Yeah.
Oh no!
While at the same time giving Maomao separate pay on the side, which I thought that was clever. But yeah, I really like what Sean Gann brought out of these two, not just casting wise, because Sean Gann, sometimes I wish I was a fly on the wall for that record, because I want to know his thought process behind these two, because he did a very good job directing these two. These two did a very good job pouring their hearts out into these characters.
Indeed. All right, Jet, finish us off.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start with KZ Tag. Definitely, interesting they casted him in this show, but it was definitely well deserved. He was a really fantastic choice, and I really like what he brought to the table here. I'll admit I actually didn't really care for Jinshi for like the first couple of episodes. I kind of found a lot of his stick to be kind of annoying, but as we kind of got to learn a little bit more about him and kind of see how much of that is like a facade, I kind of found myself getting more interested in the character, and I think I think Cage's performance definitely added a lot. Definitely added a lot to that. He did a pretty good job, kind of switching between the whole like playful man-child attitude, kind of like constantly vying for Mao's attention and sort of doing whatever he can to mess with her. Versus the moments where he needs to, kind of put on his professional pants and kind of play the role and kind of play the role of the court politician. And I think that KG kind of does a pretty good job of balancing those two sides really well. And while we don't know and while as of the first season we kind of don't know a whole lot about his origins, I think that KG does a pretty good job of leading into the fact that Jinshi isn't. It's like that Jinshi isn't quite what he seems, and that does kind of seem to eat away at him a bit. And I thought that KG did a pretty good job of getting that across. But mostly, I just really kind of liked a lot of the chemistry he and Emmy Lowe's Maomao had. Just kind of like really great interactions. I just really love how much he's just constantly bouncing her chops, and it was really fun. And then going into Emmy Lowe as Maomao. I've definitely heard Emmy Lowe and a few other things at this point, but they sounded different in pretty much everything I've heard them in. That I know they have a pretty wide range, but I think that this role in particular is just like a really good demonstration that's exactly how wide that range is. Yeah, we see Bao kind of being, snarky and exasperated a lot of the time, and Emmy gets that across really well. We see a lot of the moments where Bao is like really excited about whatever new drug or poison he's found, and kind of getting overexcited about it. And I think that Emmy is really good whenever we get a lot of those comedic moments, and then and then during the rare moments where we see Bao be just kind of, like you guys were saying, sort of lead into quiet anger. I think that Abby is also really good at those moments, and especially the bit in episode 3 where she's getting mad at all those ladies in waiting, and Emily's delivery there was just really fantastic. And I really just. Really just nothing but good things to say about this performance. I was just really impressed by Emmy's range here. Just did a really good job of getting across a lot of the nuance with this character, and I was really happy with the performance, and also really impressed with what KG Tang brought to the table. 2 leads, backup job, really good casting choices, and happy with what we got here.
Jet, do you want to know something really funny?
Go ahead.
You know how you said you couldn't stand Jinshi at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently the author, Natsuya Hyuga, does not understand why people find Jinshi attractive.
What?
I believe they've gone on record going, why? What is wrong with all of you?
I mean, you wrote him, so...
I mean, I would just like to imagine them and Gege Akutami, who wrote Jujutsu Kaisen, sitting in a bar, looking at Jinshi and Gojo and going, I don't know where the fuck I went wrong.
But it is funny you say that, because that actually was the closest comparison I was going to give there.
Yeah, they were also like, why do you all like Gojo? Why do you all find him hot? He's terrible. And they're both voiced by Keiji.
We're all broken.
Oh,
That's
boy.
the answer.
Like, Keiji Tang as a actor can literally make a wheel of I can fix him.
Stares at Dazai.
Like, the scale of I can fix him that Keiji Tang has. Just like, it's that range of I can fix him to why would I fix him? Whatever's fucking wrong with him is funnier. With that being said, let's go into our final thoughts. Jamal, if you could kick us off.
Okay, I will admit it did take me a little while in the beginning to come out to this, but I do remember that one of my favorite movies was it was a kung fu movie, Legend of the Drunken Master, and in that the main character played by Jackie Chan had the father who was an apothecary who basically taught him a few things in life and how to handle themselves. And I basically, part of it, I got the same vibe out of that, but also at the same time, it was something extraordinary and felt like nothing I've ever seen before watching this show. So when I got into the dub, I liked it pretty much the Kingdom Come. Like, I was so ecstatic by this. I was so taken aback by this show. Its world building, its fictional history, it's persona non grata basically. Anything and everything that goes on within this show, it's kind of enthralling, and especially when you learn the secrets behind everything and how everything is connected. It is enriching, it is interesting, it is very vibrant. And I can't wait to see more in season 2, which I probably might start right after this recording is done. And not to date the episode, but happy birthday, Emilo.
Hey!
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Beth, you go next.
As has been stated before, historical fiction is my jam, so I was latched onto this show from the second I heard about it, and everything that I've seen, read, consumed of it since has cemented its place as one of my favorite pieces of media ever, let alone one of my favorite anime. Like, this is permanent top 5 for me, possibly top 3. Everything about this show, from the direction, the writing, the voice acting, I gotta shout out the music and the sound editing. Just perfection. Like, everything about this show is 10 out of 10, hit it out of the park. And it's one of those rare shows where you actually get more on a rewatch. Like, the more you watch it, the more you notice. And with a lot of things these days, that's rare. So this is absolutely one of the best shows. Cannot recommend it enough. Also, I have a small bone to pick with Crunchyroll about the on-disc credits because part 1 is out. Why do you have the same English credits for all episodes, Crunchyroll?
Oh shit.
The Japanese credits line up with the episode. The English credits do not.
Meanwhile, I was gonna say, wait, they actually made English credits? I'm shocked.
Jesus.
I got a different bone to pick with them. That's not for this episode.
But yeah.
Jet.
No, you're good.
Oh, sorry.
This is a really great show, really excellent dub. Like I said before, I've seen a few court dramas before, but I wanted them to. But while I have enjoyed a lot of the ones I've seen, I do kind of. It is kind of easy to sort of get lost with, a lot of the moving parts, a lot of names to memorize, as I like who's backstabbing who and all that. So it really speaks to both the quality of the show and the quality of this dub. That a lot of that is just really easy to follow in this show, and I got into it like pretty much right away. And a lot of that really just kind of, a lot of that just kind of comes down to how fun of a protagonist Maomao is. I really was impressed by the quality of the dub and just, just what every actor brought to the table here. Just really strong performances across the board, and really enjoyed the way they adapted it. And yeah, this is a really strong one. It's pretty easy to see why the show blew up so much.
So yeah, I was like, when they announced this getting an anime, I freaked the fuck out because I loved it. And my only wish was like, when I learned Crunchyroll had it, was like, please for the love of God, dub this. If you don't, you're stupid as shit, you stupid Orange Company. Thankfully, they listened to me for once. And us for once. This dub is incredible. I think that it is genuinely like a lot of you guys, like, it's super polished, super well performed, like, super well done. And I think it came out definitely in a time that it needed to, because this ran concurrent with Frieren when they both started airing. They both started airing in the same season. And they both absolutely dominated in Japan. Like, constantly were selling high. Like, they boomed. And as somebody who, while I do identify as non-binary, I still do lean towards, like, female. It was so nice having both of those shows come out at the same time to show the spectrum of, like, female lead characters outside of shoujo shows. Because a lot of people see female lead characters and they just kind of, like, toss them to the side because, unfortunately, the anime industry, and especially the Western anime industry, still thinks that it needs to cater to cis men and bad isekai power fantasies more than a wide variety of genres to appease all people. So the fact that this dub came out and got treated with the respect that it deserves says a lot, and I'm very happy it did so. Like, this is a much-watched show. A lot of people don't realize that the Japanese staff for the show is also stacked to all fucking hell and back. If I'm correct, this is directed by the gentleman who did the first season of The Ancient Magus Bride. And has 3 composers, one of which did Star Driver, one of which did Made in Abyss, and the other one who did Jujutsu Kaisen. And if I'm also correct, I believe Juki Honda handled a lot of the series composition overview. I could be wrong. If I am, correct me in the comments. But just that, like, this came out as well as it did and it didn't fucking flop is, like, the best thing ever, and I'm so glad that this dub is really good and that everybody should watch it. And, like, if we end up giving it a ton of flowers at the dubbies, like, please know that it deserves it, and, like, you should be watching season 2 at this point. And I hope that this, like, is a show like fucking Slime and My Hero where, like, every time a season ends they just announce another season.
Fingers crossed.
Like, please just give me that. Like, don't dick me around. Just like, yeah, we're just gonna keep making more of this, like, once a year for, like, 6 months.
We're up to, like, 16
like,
novels now, at least.
Yeah, and I think at the time of when we record this and this is airing, I don't even think we're, like, a quarter of a way through the
Oh, no,
novel.
we're, because with the novels, it's each core is a season, so, like, core 1 was book 1, so we're gonna end the show. Yeah, we're currently in book 3, and core 2 of season 2 is going to be book 4.
Okay. Twitch, like, one of the things I will say, though, that does annoy me about people is, like, how much does this show follow the novel? Just shut the fuck up and don't care about that, just watch the show. But if you would like to watch the show, you can watch it on Crunchyroll, and I believe sometime in early April it's coming to Netflix. Season 1's coming to Netflix soon. So if you have a Netflix account and don't have a Crunchyroll account, you can go watch it there. If you would like to buy the series, I believe both halves of it are out on Blu-ray now.
Just
season
part
1
is out. Part 2 is coming in a couple of weeks, I believe.
And, like, yeah, part 2 is coming soon. If you would like to read the manga and the light novel, I believe Square Enix puts them both out in the US. I believe the manga is up to volume 13 of the specific one that is out, and then the light novels just got to volume 4 for physical edition. I think they're in, like, the 15s or the 16 on J-Novel Club. Because they were published digitally for years, and it took a very long time for them to come out in physicals. So if you read physically, we're at volume 4. If you read digitally, we're like somewhere in the teens. If you'd like to follow us and what we do, we are the Dub Talk Podcast. You can follow us on the Shambling Corpse of Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you want to listen to us. YouTube, if you want to watch here. If you would like to support us as a one-time thing, we do have a Ko-fi. But if you'd like to support us on the regular, we do have a Patreon. Our Patreons, at our $5 tier, we have, awkwardly you, Beth. Crimson Echidna, Just J2, Kimwa Soup, Marissa Lenti, Michelle Travis, and my parents. At the $10 tier, we have Anthony Brown, Carly Lestical, Julia W, Otaku Anthony, and Pika Greg. Everybody very quickly show where you are.
Sure. Sure, you could, sure, I'm Jet. You can find me on Blue Sky, at Divine Nega, where I'll usually just, be talking about anime, comics, or politics, or I guess whatever's going on currently. You can also find me on my blog, The Nerdy Abyss, where I will sometimes write about whatever Shonen Jump stuff I'm reading when I feel like it. You can also find me on Surreal Revolutions podcast O&A alongside fellow Dub Talkers Andrew, and I also do some freelance stuff for A&N. This season I'm doing reviews for Sakamoto Days, Metal, and Metalist.
Thanks, Jet. Jamal?
Hi, I'm Jamal. You can find me on Twitter, Jamstar529. I'm pulling the channel awesome, and I'll be there as the last man standing until, things go down. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Jamstar529, YouTube at Jamstar1. I still plan on doing solo podcasts. It's just, right now, life's not exactly in the cards for me, but I'm keeping my head up. I'm also the assistant editor for this podcast, so, just that.
Awesome. Beth, show where you
Hey,
are.
I'm Beth. You can find me on Blue Sky because Twitter is dead. You can find me on Blue Sky at bright_eyes505. And as I am the resident book nerd of our little group, I have what I have now termed Beth's Book Nook. So if you would like to, I've got a couple of books. If you would like to read books that are similar in the vein of Apothecary Diaries, we've got The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Mi Vo and The Red Palace by June Her. These are both very in the vein similar of Apothecary Diaries. And if you would like to read books that I think Maomao would absolutely devour, we have Witches, Midwives, and Nurses, A History of Women Healers by Barbara Einreich, and The Butchering Art, Joseph Lister's Quest to Transform the Grisly World of Victorian Medicine by Lindsay Fitzharris, because I think Maomao would absolutely eviscerate Victorian medicine. She would look at them in horror.
I look at our current medical field in horror some days. If you want to follow me, I'm Megan. You can follow me at Queenera on Blue Sky. I mostly just post shit, and sometimes you can probably find me running around Final Fantasy XIV or hurting myself by playing League of Legends. With that being said, thank you guys. We've all gotten a lot of money from our very, very lovely clients. Now let's go blow this joint. Which one of you is doing this?
Wait, that's not you?
That's not me!
You're welcome. That's a preview for what's coming in season 2, folks.
Good night, everybody. Have a good night, Otaku-on.
Keep on poisoning.
Have a good one.
Later.
And...
Ribbit, ribbit.